Alright students, welcome back as we continue our Cisco Packet Tracer introduction journey. Again, my name is Keith Gebhardt. In this lecture specifically, we're going to be talking about configuring our router so the two broadcast domains we have in this layer 3 network topology over here can communicate back and forth together. So the first thing we need to do is go ahead and click the router, and we are going to go ahead and click the CLI. Now in a real network, you would be remoting into the router, or we would be connecting these console cables into the router. In fact, let me just show you guys that real quick. If I wanted to connect to a router using a console cable, I would select the blue console cable down here, select the PC, it would be the RS-232 connection into the router or switch's console port. From there, you would go into the PC, you would go to desktop, and then you would have to click terminal, just like you would do on your real PC. In fact, your real PC, you would be using an application called PuTTY. Okay, this is freely available online. I'm a huge fan of what we call Secure CRT. This is more or less of a professional level tool where we could have multiple windows open. We could write scripts, we could transfer scripts. It's a very powerful tool, but you're going to pay some money for this. So it's not really recommended that you need Secure CRT. It's just a very nice tool to have. Makes sometimes your life as an engineer a lot easier. But PuTTY, a lot of organizations, in fact, a lot of companies I consult for use PuTTY quite often on their remote servers that they use to access their devices remotely. So it's really nice and easy to use. You would just type in the IP address to whatever you're remoting in, open, and away you go. So that's the same thing as what we're using inside of Packet Tracer when we click this here terminal option. It's just like PuTTY. Now the preset defaults here are there by default, which is great. For those of you in Network Plus, you could just hit OK. For those of you in Cisco training, pursuing your Cisco exams, you need to actually know each one of these values. Click OK and you will see I am now inside this router. So either way works. You can, again, just click the device, but if you want to keep it more realistic, you need to use the console cable. Typically, I just tend, after I show people how to do that, it just, since we are, in this virtual environment and we have the capabilities of doing so to keep things simple, I just tend to click the device itself. So one thing that's different when you go into a router opposed to a, let me pull my screen back up. All right, there we go. One thing that's different opposed to when you go into a Cisco router opposed to a Cisco switch is as soon as you open up a Cisco switch, it's just going to basically give you some syslog messages saying what's connected, what's not connected, etc., and it takes you right into what we call user mode. Again, if I go back over here to the router, I'll click that so it stays there. Go back into my, why is my router CLI not coming? There it is. So if I go into my router here for the first time, there's no configurations on the router, right? So we're getting prompted with the system configuration dialog box. You will never see this on a Cisco switch. This is only applicable to the Cisco routers. Now, for the most part, and for your exam, for your Cisco seekers out there, you're going to say no. Just simply type in N and hit enter. And now if I hit enter, you can see I am in the same mode, which is called user mode, as the switch. So that's one major difference for when you get into a router. Now we need to configure these interfaces. So to get into configuring a Cisco router, you need to go in and say enable. So right now, sitting where my cursor is, we are in what's called user mode. If I type in enable, it takes me to what's called privileged mode, or some people call it enable mode. But you can see the syntax within the CLI changes to a pound sign from a greater than sign. Now I need to go a step further. Within the privilege mode, I could do different running configuration commands or verification commands by saying show run. Okay, and if you hit the tab key, it'll finish out the configuration for you, show running config. But the shorthand syntax would be just show run. Hit enter, and you can see all the default configurations on this router right now. And you can see Gigabit Ethernet 00 and 01 are both in a shutdown state, which is not good. We need these to be turned on to actually do something with them. We also see that they're not IP addressed. There's no IP addresses associated to these two. So what we need to do is actually give this interface for both networks an IP address, which will act as its default gateway. So if I hit the tab key to get out of that, now to get into the next mode where we could actually implement configurations on our Cisco router, we have to say configure terminal, or for shorthand, CompT. Again, if you hit the tab key, T, that is the full command. So CompT, configure T, or configure terminal will get you into this mode. You know you are in this mode by the pound sign and the config in parentheses. Okay? So to get into an interface on a Cisco router or switch, really, you would just simply say interface. And since we kind of could cheat here, we see it listed right here nice and easily. We could say gigabit. You could tab it out, right? Or I could just say G, which is shorthand again. So int stands for interface, and then gigabit Ethernet, and then you would say 00. That would be the full syntax. But no one's got time to sit there and write all that out. So we simply say interface, gigabit, 00. Boom. Now we are in an interface configuration mode because we see the hyphenated if next to our config. So we're in a next level of the configuration. The next command we need to do is give it an IP address. So we're going to say IP add, and I'm going to hit the tab key, IP address 192.168.1.1 because this is for the 1.0 network, and that's the syntax I typically use for my default gateways. Now we need to hit the space bar. Now if you use the question mark in Cisco iOS, you'll get the help commands, which is good in case you forget a command. We use it all the time in the industry. It's not cheating, so don't worry. But you can see it also requires a subnet mask within the same line. So to do that, we just simply type in 255.255.255.0. Notice I did, however, put a space here, okay? So once we type in that subnet mask, we can hit enter. Now another thing we notice is that this is shut down. So to tell it not to be shut down, we simply say no shut down, or we could just say no shut, and you can see our syslog message comes up saying it is up and running. Notice as well as the switch's interface goes green, and then down here it is amber for a brief second or two because of spanning tree, but that will turn green here in a moment. While that's doing that, we could go ahead and configure the gigabit Ethernet 01 interface. So we could just type in exit to go back to regular configuration mode, and we're going to say interface G01 IP address, again tab key if you want the whole thing, and we're going to say 192.168.2.1 255.255.255.0, enter, and again say no shutdown because we want that interface to turn on. Hit enter. Syslog messages prompt us saying it's good. We can exit this. Now one thing we need to do is say do copy rs. Now this is, again, we're not really spending too much time here going over the configurations. I'm just trying to get you guys up and running on a network. But this is how we save it from a running config, which is volatile memory, to a startup config, which is non-volatile memory on the device. So when we lose power to the device, or if we close out the lab and bring the lab back in, our configurations are still here. Okay? So now if I do that show run, in fact, let's go back to privilege mode by saying exit. We could say show run, or running config, whatever you prefer. And I'm just going to hit the enter key and scroll down. And down here we can see the two interfaces are now up with an IP address. Notice they don't say shut down because we told it not to be shut down. Looking at our link status lights, we can see they are indeed what? Green. Perfect. Beautiful. So now I can go ahead and close out this router's box here. I can click our desktop. I could go to command line prompt, and I could go ahead and try to ping anything in a different network. Ooh, let's ping 192.168.2.5. Will we have communication? I just thought of something I did not do for you guys, but I want to see if you guys are smart enough to pay attention to what we are missing. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter, and will we have communication? Boom. Bum ba bum 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 ba bum 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 ba bum bum bum. Failed. So it failed. So why did it fail? Well, we did change the name of these devices. Let's go back to our physical or desktop layer. Close this out. Let's go to IP configuration. We never changed what? The IP addresses on these devices to be in the subnet. So what I got to do is I got to say 2.5. But one other thing we need to add is the default gateway. So we're going to say 192.168. Now his default gateway is 2.1. So we could close him out. And I'm also going to go over to the server. Okay, we could move him over. We could go to IP 2.6. Oh, he was done. And then we just need to add him 192.168.2.1. I think I forgot to save it from the last lecture. That's why that one computer wasn't done. But in any case, what I knew we forgot, in case you're wondering what the answer to that was when I was testing you, was the default gateways. We had to make sure our default gateways are the same. Now, hold on 1 second. Let me look at this. 1.5. I totally messed up my addressing in the last lecture. I don't know if you guys are paying attention. So if you messed up with me, that's fine. Let's go through it now. PC 1.5's IP address should be 1.5. His default gateway should be 1.1. So we could close that out. Let's check this PC. Desktop IP configuration. He's right, 1.6. I don't know what happened there. Must have been a glitch or something. 192.168.1.1 for his default gateway as well. Let me just double check my laptops. It could have been my fault. Who knows? You know, you get talking and you forget. His default gateway is 192.168.2.1. Close him out. Go to the server. ipconfig 2.1, 2.6. All right, so now we're good. Let me go ahead. Let me do my own due diligence. Control S to save that. I don't know how that got messed up. Maybe I messed it up in the last lecture. Who knows? But anyway, we all should be on the same page now. Okay. If I go to this computer now, go to the command prompt, hit that up arrow, we are going to fail probably once because of that ARP resolution protocol. As you can see, it did, and now it comes back. We have full communication. Pretty cool, guys, right? So make sure you saved your lab topologies, okay? And in the next lecture, we'll actually see these packets go through this network one more time in more or less of a layer 3 network. So you can see how the packets are learning different source and destination IP information. I will see you guys in the next one.